Oh my lord. Oh, hello. Good morning. Oh my god. I'm choking on my orange soda with milk in it. Yes, you heard that right. I can turn any soda into cream soda if I put enough milk in it. I'm dying. Okay. Uh, we have the good mic. Why? Why do I have the good mic? Well, because we're reading, of course. It's 9:15 in the morning. Go back to bed. No. Lily! Hi! Hold on, am I subscribed to you? Actually, I need to check. I'm not. What the fuck? Okay, there we go. Hi! Welcome to book club. Uh, I need something easy to distract me from life and Twitter. Hold on. Close my door. Okay. I need I need to be somewhere where I can just not think. And that place is space, I guess. Today's drink is soda water, orange flavored, but I put milk in it. It's better than you think. Just a little bit of milk. It's like putting cream in coffee. I'm not crazy. Um, but it is time. We're gonna read. Uh, we are on chapter 4 of Project Hail Mary. Uh, I read the first 3 chapters. A couple of. Is my good mic working? Can I? Do I sound okay? Give me a. Give. Uh, tell me. Tell me if I sound okay. Um. Uh. This is the first time you've ever heard my voice. I think. Uh. I have my good microphone that I bought specifically for karaoke's and um reading. I guess. Uh. Voice acting and stuff. So. Yeah. Project Hail Mary Chapter 4. We're gonna try and get awesome, good. Okay. We're gonna try and get 3 to 4 chapters done today. I had to pause my Quinnamin video. I was gonna start sooner. I saw you were streaming and I wanted to come say hi first. um, uh, because I realized I talk all this shit about my friends not showing up to my streams, and then I'm too tired to show up to anyone else's, so I have to have to get better at it. Okay, okay. Chapter 4. Focus. Chapter 4. Okay. I think it's time I took a long, gosh darn look at these screens. How am I in another solar system? That doesn't even make sense. What star is that anyway? Oh my god, I'm so going to die. I hyperventilate for a while. I remember what I tell my students. If you're upset, take a deep breath, let it out, and count to 10. It dramatically reduced the number of tantrums in my classroom. 1, 2, 3. This isn't working. I'm going to die. I hold my head in my hands. Oh my god, where the heck am I? I scour the monitors for anything I can make sense of. There's no lack of information, there's too much. Each screen has a handy label on the top. Life support, airlock status, engines, robotics, astrophage, generators, centrifuge. Wait a minute, astrophage? I'll check the astrophage panel closely. Remaining 20,906 kilograms. Consumption rate 6.405 GS. Uh, Far more interesting than those numbers is the diagram below them. It shows what I assume is the Hail Mary, my first real overview of what this ship looks like. The top of the ship is a cylinder with a nose cone at the front. That's a rocket shape if I ever saw one. Judging by the tapered conical walls of the control room, this must be the very front of the ship. Beneath me is a lab. On the diagram, that room is labeled Lab. Below it is the room I woke up in. The one with my dead friends. I sniffle and wipe away a tear. No time for that right now. I put it out of my head and keep looking at the diagram. That room is named Dormitory. Okay, so this whole diagram lines up with my experiences. And it's nice to know the official names of things. Underneath the dormitory is a much shorter room, maybe about 1 meter high, named Storage. Aha! There must be a panel in the floor that I missed. I make a mental note to check that out later. But there's more. A lot more. Under the storage area, there's an area labeled cable fairing. No idea what that is or why it exists. Beneath that, the ship fans out, and there appear to be 3 cylinders, the same width as my little area. They're all side by side. My guess is they assembled this ship in space, and the largest diameter they could launch was about 4 meters. The trio of cylinders, I'd estimate they're 75% of the total ship's volume, are labeled fuel. The fuel area is broken up into 9 sub-cylinders. I tap one of them out of curiosity, and it brings up a screen for that one fuel bay. It says Esterphage, 0.000 kilograms. It also has a button labeled Jettison. Well, I'm not sure why I'm here or what these things are all about, but I definitely don't want to hit any button labeled Jettison. Well, it's probably not as dramatic as it seems. These are fuel tanks. If the fuel's been spent, the ship can ditch the tank to reduce its mass and make the remaining fuel last longer. It's the same reason rockets lifting off from Earth have multiple stages. Interesting that the ship didn't automatically eject them as they became empty. I dismiss the window and return to the main ship map. Under each of those large fuel zones is a trapezoidal area labeled spin drive. I've never heard the term before. But since it's in the back of the ship and it has the word drive in its name, I assume it's the propulsion system. Spin drive. Spin drive. I close my eyes and try to think about it. Nothing happens. I can't call up memories at will. I'm not there yet. I peer at the diagram and move diagram more closely. Why is there 20,000 kilograms of astrophage on this ship? I've got a small suspicion it's the fuel. And why not? Astrophage can propel itself with light and has absurd storage capability. God, it's had God knows how many billions of years of evolution to get good at it. It's just like a horse is more efficient than a truck. Astrophage is more efficient than a spaceship. Okay, that explains why there's a buttload of astrophage on the ship. It's fuel. But why put a diagram of the ship on this screen? That's like putting a blueprint of a car on its gas gauge. Interesting. The diagram doesn't really care about the rooms. It doesn't even show what's inside them, just a label for each one, and that's it. However, the diagram is very focused on the hull and the rear part of the ship. I see red pipes leading from fuel areas to spin drives, probably how fuel gets to the engines. But I also see pipes all along the hull of the ship, and they cut across the cable fairing area. So the astrophage fuel is most likely in the fuel tank, but also kept in a shell all around the hull. Why do that? Oh, and there's multiple temperature readings all over the place. I guess temperature is important because the readings are every few meters along the hull, and every single one of them reads 96.415 degrees Celsius. Hey, I know that temperature. I know that exact temperature. Where do I know it from? Come on, brain. Come on. 96.415 degrees Celsius, read the display. Ah, I said. What is it? Strat said immediately. It was my second day in the lab. Strat still insisted I be the only person to look at Astrophage, at least for the time being. She dropped her tablet on the table and came to the observation room window. Something new? Kinda. The ambient temperature of an astrophage is 96.415 degrees Celsius. That's pretty hot, isn't it? Yeah, almost the boiling point of water. I said, for anything living on Earth, it'd be deadly, but for a thing that's comfortable near the sun, who knows? So what's significant about it? I can't get them hotter or colder. I pointed to the experiment I'd set up in the fume hood. I put some astrophage in ice cold water for an hour. When I pulled them out, they were 96.415 degrees Celsius. Then I put some in a lab furnace at over 1,000 degrees. Again, after I pulled them out, 96.415. Strat placed next to the window. Maybe they have extremely good insulation? I thought of that, so I did another experiment. I took an extremely small droplet of water and put a few astrophage in it. After a few hours, the whole droplet was 96.415 degrees. The astrophage heated up the water, so that means heat energy can move out of it. What conclusion can you draw? She asked. I tried to scratch my head, but the vinyl suit got in the way. Well, we know they have a huge amount of energy stored inside. I'm guessing they use it to maintain body temperature, same way you and I do. A warm-blooded microorganism, she said. She shrugged. Looks that way. Hey, how much longer am I going to be the only person working on this? Until you stop discovering new stuff. One guy, alone in a lab? That's not how science works, I said. There should be hundreds of people all over the world working on this. You're not alone in that thought, she said. I've had 3 different heads of state call me today. Then let other scientists in on it. No. Why not? She looked away for a moment, then back through the window at me. Astrophage is an alien microbe. What if it can infect humans? What if it's deadly? What if hazmat suits and neoprene gloves aren't enough protection? I gasped. Wait a minute, am I a guinea pig? I'm a guinea pig! No, it's not like that, she said. I stared at her. She stared at me. I stared at her. Okay, it's exactly like that, she said. Dang it, I said. That's just not cool. Don't be dramatic, she said. I'm just playing it safe. Imagine what would happen if I sent Astrophage to the most brilliant minds on the planet and it killed them all. In an instant, we'd lose the very people we need most right now. I can't risk it. I scowled. This isn't some cheesy movie, Strat. Pathogens evolve slowly over time to attack specific hosts. Astrophage has never even been on Earth before. There's just no way it can infect humans. Besides, it's been a couple of days and I'm not dead, so send it out to the real scientists. You are a real scientist, and you're making progress as fast as anyone else would. There's no point in me risking other lives while you're getting it done on your own. Are you kidding? I said. With a couple hundred minds working on this, we'd make a lot more progress on. Also, most deadly diseases have a minimum of at least 3 days incubation time. Ah, there it is. She walked back to her table and picked up her tablet. The rest of the world will have their turn in time, but for now it's just you. At least tell me what the hell those things are made of. Then we can talk about giving it to other scientists. She resumed reading her tablet. The conversation was over, and she'd ended up laying down what my students would call a sick burn. Despite my best efforts, I still had no idea what the heck astrophage was made of. They were opaque to every wavelength of light I threw at them. Visible, infrared, ultraviolet, X-ray, microwaves. I even put a few astrophage in a radiation containment vessel and exposed it to gamma rays emitted by Cesium-137. This lab has everything. I called it the Bruce Banner test. Felt good at that about that name. My god, he's such a fucking nerd. I love you, Ryland. Oh, Anyway, even Gamma couldn't penetrate the little bastards, which is like shooting a 50 caliber round at a sheet of paper and having it bounce off. It just doesn't make any sense. I sulked back to the microscope. The little dots hung out in the slide where they'd been for hours. This was my control set, the ones I hadn't battered with various light sources. Maybe I'm overthinking this, I muttered. I poked around the lab supplies till I found what I needed. Nano syringes. They were rare and expensive, but the lab had them. Basically, they were teeny weeny tiny needles, small enough and sharp enough to be used for poking at microorganisms. You could pull mitochondria out of a living cell with one of these babies. Back to the microscope. Okay, you little reprobates. You're radiation proof, I'll grant you that. But how about I stab you in the face? Normally, a nanosyringe would be controlled by finely tuned equipment, but I just wanted some stabby time and didn't care about the tool's integrity. I grabbed the collet, where it would. Fuck. I grabbed the collet, where it would normally mount to the control machinery, and brought the needle into view in the microscope. They're called nanosyringes, but they're actually about 50 nanometers wide. Still, the needle was tiny compared to the hulking 10-micron astrophage. Only about 1/2000th the width. I poked an astrophage with the needle, and what happened next was nothing I could have expected. First off, the needle penetrated. No doubt on that front. For all its resistance to light and heat, apparently astrophage was no better at dealing with sharp things than any other cell. The instant I poked a hole in it, the whole cell became translucent. No longer a featureless black dot, but a cell with organelles and everything else a microbiologist like me wants to see. Just like that, it was like flicking a switch. And then it died. The ruptured cell wall simply gave up the ghost and completely unraveled. The astrophage went from being a cohesive roundish object to a slowly widening puddle with no outer boundary. I grabbed a normal needle from the nearby shelf and sucked up the goop. Yes, I said, I killed one! Good for you, Strat said without looking up from her tablet. First human to kill an alien, just like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator. Okay, I know you're trying to be funny, but that predator died by deliberately setting off a bomb. The first human to actually kill a predator was Michael Harrigan, who played by Danny Glover in Predator 2. God, he's such a fucking nerd. Are you kidding me? So many random nerd references were in this book. Ugh. She stared at me through the window for a moment, then shook her head and rolled her eyes. Point is, I can finally find out what astrophage is made of. Really? She set her tablet down. Killing it did the trick? I think so. It's not black anymore. Light's getting through. Whatever weird effect was blocking it isn't anymore. How did you do it? What killed it? I penetrated the outer cell membrane with a nanosyringe. You poked it with a stick? No, I said. Well, yes, but it was a very scientific poke with a very scientific stick. It took you 2 days to think of poking it with a stick? You be quiet. I took the needle out to the spectroscope and ejected the astrophage goop onto the platform. Then I sealed the chamber and fired up the analysis. I bounced from one foot to the other like a little kid while I waited for the results. God, he's so cute. Strat craned her neck to watch me. So what's this you're doing now? It's the atomic emission spectroscope, I said. I told you about it earlier. It sends X-rays into a sample to excite the atoms, then watches the wavelengths that come back. Didn't work at all when I tried it on the live astrophage, but now that the magic light-stopping properties are gone, it should work like normal. The machine beeped. Alright, here we go! Time to find out what chemicals are in a life form that doesn't use water! I read the LCD screen. It showed all the peaks and elements they represented. I stared at the screen silently. Well, said Strat. Well, um, there's carbon and nitrogen, but the vast majority of the sample is hydrogen and oxygen, I said and plopped down to the chair next to the machine. The ratio of hydrogen to oxygen is 2 to 1. What's wrong? She said. What does that mean? It's water. Astrophage is mostly water. Her mouth fell open. Oh, how can something that exists on the surface of the sun have water? I shrugged. Probably because it maintains its internal temperature at 96.415 degrees Celsius no matter what's going on outside. What does this all mean? She asked. Put my head in my hands. It means every scientific paper I ever wrote was wrong. Well, that's a kick in the pants. But I wasn't happy in that lab anyway, and they must have brought in smarter people than me because here I am at another star in a ship powered by astrophage. So why am I the one out here? All I did was prove that my lifelong belief was wrong. I guess I'll remember that part later. For now, I want to know what star that is and why we built a ship to bring people here. All important things to be sure, but right now there's a whole area of the ship that I haven't explored yet. Storage. Maybe I can find something other than a makeshift toga to wear. I climbed down the ladder to the lab and then further downward into the dormitory. My friends are still there, still dead. I try not to look at them. I scan the floor for any hint of an access panel. Nothing. So I get down on my hands and knees and crawl around. Finally, I spot it. A very thin seam marking a square directly under my male crewmate's bunk. I can't even wedge my fingernail into the seam, it's so thin. But there were all manner of tools in the lab. Sure, there's a flathead screwdriver I could use to pry this open. Or a computer. Open this access panel. Specify aperture to open. Open aperture to supply room. Unsealing supply room, says the computer. There's a click and the panel raises a couple of inches. A rubber gasket around the seam gets torn apart in the process. Couldn't see it when the panel was closed. Things were that tight. But I'm glad I didn't try to pry it open. It would have been a pain in the butt. I pull the remains of the seal off the panel, and the panel becomes loose in the opening. I jiggle it a bit before figuring out I have to rotate it. I rotate it once, 90 degrees, it detaches, and I set it aside. I poke my head into the room below and see a bunch of soft-sided white cubes. I guess that makes sense. Packing stuff into soft containers lets you cram more things into the room. Just as the diagram in the control room said, the storage area is about a meter high and completely full of those soft containers. Just realized I don't have my stats up. There we go. Um, I would have to remove a bunch just to get in there. If I wanted to get in there, I guess. I'll have to eventually. It looks a bit claustrophobic, to be honest, like the crawl space under a house. I grab the nearest package and pull it up through the opening. The package is held together by Velcro straps. I pull them apart and the container unfolds like a Chinese takeout box. Inside are a bunch of uniforms. Jackpot! Oh, not really a coincidence. Whoever packed this probably did it with careful planning, and they knew the crew would want uniforms as soon as they woke up, so they're in the first bag. There were at least a dozen uniforms in the package. They're each in vacuum sealed plastic bags. I open one at random. It's a light blue one piece jumpsuit, astronaut clothes. The fabric is thin but feels comfortable. On the left shoulder is the Hail Mary mission patch, same design I saw in the control room. Beneath that is the Chinese flag. The right shoulder has a white patch with a blue chevron triangle surrounded by a wreath design. The letters say CNSA. I recognize it immediately, nerd that I am. It's the Chinese National Space Agency logo. There's a name tag over the left breast pocket. It reads Yao. The same character I saw in the Hail Mary mission crest. It's pronounced Yao. How do I know? Of course I know, Commander Yao. He was our leader. I can see his face now. Young and striking. Eyes full of determination. He understood the severity of the mission and the weight on his shoulders. He was ready for the task. He was stern but reasonable, and you just knew, he would give up his life in a second for the mission or his crew. I just had a drink of water. How are we doing? This is all still the same chapter, but how are we doing? Everyone, everyone okay? These chapters are super long. This book is thick as hell. Pull out another uniform, much smaller than the commander's. The mission patch is the same, but there's a Russian flag beneath it, and the right shoulder has a tilted red chevron surrounded by a ring. It's the symbol of Roscosmos, the Russian space agency. The name patch reads Ilyukna, another name from the crest. This was Ilyukna's uniform. Olesya Ilyukna. She was hilarious. She could have you laughing your butt off within 30 seconds of meeting you. She just had one of those infectious and jovial personalities. As serious as Yao was, Ilyukna was casual. They butted heads about it from time to time, but even Yao couldn't resist her charms. I remember when he finally broke down and laughed at one of her jokes. You can't be 100% serious forever. I stand up and look at the bodies. No longer a stern commander, no longer a cheerful friend, just two empty husks that once held souls but now barely looked human. They deserve more than this. They deserve a burial. The container holds multiple outfits for each crew member. I eventually find clothes for me. They are exactly as I assumed they would be. Hail Mary mission patch with a US flag underneath, a NASA logo on the right shoulder, and a name tag that says Grace. Put on my jumpsuit. After more digging in the storage area, I find footwear. They're not really shoes, just thick socks with rubber soles. Booties with some grip. I guess that's all we'd need for the mission. Going to space is the real grippy sock vacation. I put them on as well. Then I go about the grim task of dressing my departed comrades. The jumpsuits don't look remotely the right size on their thin, desecrated bodies. I even put the booties on. Why not? This is our uniform, and a traveler deserves to be buried in uniform. I start with Ilyukna. She weighs almost nothing. I carry her over my shoulder as I climb the ladders all the way to the control room. Once there, I set her on the floor and open the airlock. Spacesuit inside is bulky and in the way. I move it, piece by piece, into the control room and set it on the pilot's chair. Then I put Alessia into the airlock. The airlock controls are self-explanatory. The air pressure inside the airlock and even the outer door are controllable by a panel in the control room. There's even a jettison button. I close the door and activate the jettison process. It starts with a buzzing alarm, blinking lights inside the airlock, and a verbal countdown. There are 3 different blinking abort switches inside the airlock. Anyone who finds themselves in there during a jettison can easily cancel it. Once the countdown finishes, the airlock decompresses to 10% of an atmosphere according to the readouts. Then it releases the outer door. With a whoosh, Alessia is gone, and with the constantly accelerating ship, the body simply falls away. Olesya Ilyukna, I say. I don't remember her religion or if she even had one. I don't know what she would have wanted said, but at least I'll remember her name. I commend your body to the stars. It seems appropriate, maybe corny, but it makes me feel better. Next, I carry Commander Yao to the airlock. I set him inside, seal it, and jettison his remains the same way. Yao Liege, I say. I don't know how I remembered his given name, it just came to me in the moment. I commend your body to the stars. The airlock cycles, and I'm alone. I was alone all along, but now I'm truly alone. The sole living human within several light years at least. What do I do now? Would you believe me if I said this is still chapter 4? But I am gonna go check. Just quickly, I'm gonna go check on my laundry to see where it's at. Um, so just hang tight, talk amongst yourselves. How are you enjoying the book so far, Lily? You're new to this. If Bon ever shows up, then uh he got to experience the first three-ish chapters and he seemed like he was having fun, but what do you think? I know it's a lot of science, and there's only going to be more science the further we go. It's a very nerdy book. It's like 90% science babble, but as someone who's fascinated by science, especially space science, it's it's particularly dear to me. All right, I'll be right back. I'm gonna go check my laundry, go to the bathroom. When I get back, we will keep going, I guess. God, this book is so fucking long. It's okay. It's literally this book has been the only thing I've thought about for the past week and 3 weeks at this point, going on four. Once you get into it, you don't really get out. There's no escaping Project Hail Mary, I fear. All right, hold on. Be back in a second. Tension is only 4% downloaded. This game is too big. All right. I'm back. Time for more book. Thanks for your patience. Uh, hope I wasn't too slow. Hope I was quick there. Back to it. Welcome back, Mr. Grace, said Teresa. The kids all sat at their desks, primed for science class. Thanks, Teresa, I said. Michael piped in. The substitute teacher was boring. Well, I'm not, I said. I picked up 4 plastic bins from the corner. Today we're gonna look at rocks. Okay, maybe that is a little boring. A chuckle from the kids. You're going to divide into 4 teams, and each team will get a bin. You have to separate rocks into igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. First team to finish and get every rock correctly categorized gets beanbags. Can we pick our own teams? Trong asked excitedly. No, that just leads to a bunch of drama because children are animals. Horrible, horrible animals. Abby raised her hand. Mr. Grace, can I ask a question? Sure. What's happening to the sun? The whole class suddenly grew much more attentive. My dad says it's not a big deal, Michael said. My dad says it's a government conspiracy, said Tamara. Okay. I set the bins down and sat on the edge of my desk. So basically, you know how there's algae in the ocean, right? Well, there's sort of space algae growing in the sun. Astrophage? Said Harrison. I almost slipped off the desk. Where did you hear that word? That's what they're calling it now, said Harrison. The president called it that in a speech last night. I'd been so isolated in the lab I didn't even know the president had given a speech. And holy cow, I invented that word for Strat the day before. In the time that it got her in the time it got from her to the president in that time it had gotten from her to the president to the media. Wow. Okay, yes. Astrophage. And it's growing on the sun or near it. People aren't sure. So what's the problem? Michael said. Algae in the ocean doesn't hurt us. Why would algae on the sun? Good question. Thing is, astrophage is starting to absorb a lot of the sun's energy. Well, not a lot, just a tiny percentage, but that means Earth gets a tiny bit less sunlight, and that can cause real problems. So it'll get colder? Like a degree or two? Abby asked. What's the big deal? You guys know about climate change, right? How our CO2 emissions have caused a lot of problems for the environment? My dad says that's not real, said Tamara. Well, it is, I said. Anyway, all the environmental problems we have from climate change, they happen because the world's average temperature went up by 1.5 degrees. That's it, just 1.5 degrees. How much will this astrophage stuff change the Earth's temperature? Asked Luther. I stood and paced slowly in front of the class. We don't know. But if it breeds like algae does at about the same speed, climatologists are saying Earth's temperature could drop 10 to 15 degrees. What'll happen? Luther asked. It'll be bad, very bad. A lot of animals, entire species, will die out because their habitats are too cold. The ocean water will cool down too, and it might cause an entire food chain collapse. So even things that could survive the lower temperature will starve to death because the things they eat all die off. The kids stare at me, awestruck. Why had their parents not explained this to them? Probably because they didn't understand it themselves. Besides, if I had a nickel for every time I wanted to smack a kid's parents for not teaching them even the most basic things, well, I'd have enough nickels to put in a sock and smack those parents with it. I forgot about that one. Oh, Ryland. Fuck. He's so funny. Sorry, hold on. Okay. Whew. Ugh. Animals are gonna die too? Abby asked, horrified. Abby rode horses competitively, spent most of her time at her grandfather's dairy farm. Human suffering is an abstract concept to kids, but animal suffering is something else entirely. Yeah, I'm sorry, but a lot of livestock will die. And it's worse than that. On land, crops will fail. The food we eat will become scarce. When that happens, the social order often breaks down, and I stop myself there. These are kids. Why was I going this far? How? Abby began. I'd never seen her at a loss for words. How long before this happens? Climatologists think that it'll happen within the next 30 years, I said. Just like that, all the kids relaxed. 30 years, Trung laughed. That's forever. It's not that long, I said. But to a bunch of 12 and 13-year-olds, 30 years may as well be a million. Oh my god, I'm sorry, I can't read today. Um, can I be on Tracy's team for the rock sorting assignment? Asked Michael. 30 years. I looked out at their little faces. In 30 years, they'd all be in their early 40s. They'd have to bear the brunt of it all, and it wouldn't be easy. These kids were going to grow up in an idyllic world and be thrown into an apocalyptic nightmare. They were the generation that would experience the sixth extinction event. I felt a cramp in the pit of my stomach. I was looking out at a room full of children. Happy children, and there was a good chance some of them would literally die of starvation. I. I have to go do a thing. Forget the rock assignment. What? Asked Luther. Dude, study hall. This is study hall for the rest of the hour. Just do homework from other classes. Stay in your seats. Work quietly until the bell rings. By the way, this is the last time he ever sees any of his students. This is the last time. I left the room without another word. I almost collapsed in the hall from the shakes. I went to a nearby drinking fountain and splashed water in my face. Then I took a deep breath, got some self control back, and jogged to the parking lot. Just take a sip. I drove fast. Way too fast. I ran red lights. I cut people off. I never do any of that, but today was different. That day was. I don't even know. I screeched into the lab parking lot and left my car parked at an odd angle. Two U.S. Army soldiers were at the doors to the complex, just as they'd been the previous 2 days while I'd been working there. I stormed past them. Should we have stopped him? I heard one guy ask the other. I didn't care what the response was. I stomped into the observation room. Strat was there, of course, reading her tablet. She looked up, and I caught a glimpse of genuine surprise on her face. Dr. Grace? What are you doing here? Past her through the windows, I spotted 4 people in containment suits working in the lab. Who are they? I said, pointing at the window. What are they doing in my lab? Can't say I like your tone. I don't care. And it's not your lab, it's my lab. Those technicians are collecting the astrophage. What are you going to do with it? She held the tablet under her arm. Your dream is coming true. I'm dividing the astrophage and sending it to 30 different labs around the world. Everything from CERN to CIA bioweapons facility. The CIA has a Never mind. I want to do more work on this. She shook her head. You've done your part. We thought it was an anhydrous life. Turns out it wasn't. You proved that. And since no aliens exploded out of your chest, we can consider the guinea pig phase over too. So you're done. No, I'm not done. There's a lot more to learn. Of course there is, she said. And I have 30 labs all eagerly waiting to get started on it. I stepped forward. Leave some astrophage here. Let me work it some more. No. Why not? According to your notes, there were 174 living astrophage cells in the sample, and you killed one yesterday, so we're down to 173. She pointed to her tablet. Each of these labs, huge national labs, will get 5 or 6 cells each. That's it. We're down to a level of scarcity Those cells are 173 most important things on Earth right now. Our analysis of them will determine if humanity survives. She paused and spoke a little more softly. I get it. You spent your whole life trying to prove that life doesn't require water, and then, unbelievably, you get some actual extraterrestrial life, and it turns out to need water. That's rough. Shake it off and get back to your life. I've got it from here. I'm still a microbiologist who spent his career working up theoretical models for alien life. I'm a useful resource with a skill set almost no one else has. Dr. Grace, I don't have the luxury of leaving samples here just to stroke your bruised ego. Ego? This isn't about my ego, it's about my children. You don't have any children. Yes, I do. Dozens of them. They come to my class every day, and they're all going to end up in a Mad Max nightmare world if we don't solve this problem. Yeah, I was wrong about the water. I don't care about that. I care about those kids. So give me some gosh darned astrophage. She stepped back and pursed her lips. She looked to the side, thinking it over. Then she turned back to me. Oh, hi, Bon! 3. You can have 3 astrophage. Plus the one you killed. I unclenched my muscles. Okay. I breathed a little. I didn't realize how tense I'd been. Where's my phone? Where's my phone? Hold on. I lost my phone. Hold on. Where's my phone? Where did I leave it? Ah. Sorry. I looked up and my phone wasn't in my hand. Okay. Okay. Um. Uh. Okay. 3. I can work with that. She typed on her tablet. We'll keep this lab open. It's all yours. Come back in a few hours and my guys will be gone. I was already halfway into a containment suit. I'm getting back to work now. Tell your guys to stay out of my way. She glared at me, but didn't say anything further. So, how are you guys feeling? Vaughn, you showed up in the middle of like my favorite scene in the whole book. Uh, but how'd I do? I love that bit. It's so like it's the most some of the most emotion we see from Ryland early on. Um, and considering how stressed I am right now, I really got to put my all into it. Uh, how are you guys feeling? How are you guys liking the book? Is it good? Are you having fun? Ugh, I feel like I'm going nuts. I love this book. Yeah, yeah. Um, I actually don't think the exact dialogue there was in the movie, but I really like Ryland's line there that this isn't about my ego, it's about my children. The idea that he's doing this for his students above anyone else. It's kind of something that he carries with him throughout the entire book. It's before he blasts off, it's his love for his students that's propelling him to work on the astrophage. And once he's in space, it's his love for Rocky that keeps him going. It's it's very important to me. Um so I was really excited to read that one. Ooh, there's 3 people in here. That's the most we've ever had in here at one time. Like I prefer streaming on YouTube to streaming on Twitch, to be honest. I know I told my agency I'd use my Twitch again when I debuted because it will make the debut relay easier, but I don't like Twitch. only have it because all my friends stream there. It's like Irium. I don't ever plan to actually do anything there, but everybody I love is there, so I go there to support them. I have beef with Dan Clancy, that's why. Oh, we lost someone. Shit. Yeah. You know what? I'm just happy to have my friends. I'm happy to be here. I love reading to you guys. This book's everything to me. Hey, congratulations, Bon. You just got the top chatter spot. You just stole the top chatter spot from Lily. Good work. Okay. Um, okay. I have to do this for my kids. I mean, they're not my kids, but they're my kids. I look at the screens arrayed before me. I need to think about this. My memory is spotty, seems reliable, though, but incomplete. Instead of waiting for an epiphany where I remember everything, what can I work out right now? Earth's in trouble. The sun's infected with astrophage. I'm in a spaceship in another solar system. This ship wasn't easy to build and it had an international crew. We're talking about an interstellar mission, something that should be impossible with our technology. Okay, so humanity put a lot of time and effort into this mission, and astrophage was the missing link that enabled it. There's only one explanation. There's a solution to the astrophage problem here, or a potential solution. Something promising enough to dedicate a huge amount of resources. Reclaimed your throne. You certainly have. Congratulations. If anybody wants to beef with Bond for my top chatter. Ding ding ding. Uh, I scoured the screens for more info. Mostly, they seem to be the kinds of things you'd expect on a spaceship: life support, navigation, that sort of thing. One screen is labeled Beatles. The next screen over says, "Wait, Beatles?" Okay, I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, but if I need to find out if there are a bunch of actual Beatles on this ship. That's the sort of thing a guy needs to know. Are there bugs on the spaceship? Oh god, I love him so much. Uh, the screen is broken into four quadrants, each one showing nearly the same thing: a little schematic and a bunch of text information. The schematics each show a bulbous oblong shape with a pointed head and a trapezoid on the back. If you tilt your head just right and squint, I suppose it kind of looks like a beetle. Each beetle also has a name up top: John, Paul, George, and Ringo. Yeah, I get it. I'm not laughing, but I get it. I'm laughing, Ryland. Sorry. I think that's funny. He'd say I'm lame. I don't even care. That's too good of a joke. Yes, the bugs are a problem for later. The beetle probes. They're fun. I arbitrarily pick one beetle, John, and give it a good look. John is no insect. I'm pretty sure he's a spaceship. Yeah, the beetles. You remember them from near the end of the movie. He sends his info home on them. The trapezoid in the rear is labeled spin drive, and the entire bulbous part is labeled fuel. The little head has a computer label and a radio label. I look a little closer. The fuel box says astrophage, 120 kilograms, temperature 96.415 degrees Celsius. Yep, of course. The computer box says last memory check 3 days ago. 5 TB functioning correctly. And the radio info just says status 100%. Welcome back, Lily. How was stream? Did you do good? Are you winning? Are you winning, Tenchi? uh, uh, it's an unmanned probe, something small, I guess. The entire mass of the fuel is just 120 kilograms. That's yay! I'm glad. Yay! Yay! I'm so happy for you. um, Something small, I guess. The entire mass of the fuel is just 120 kilograms. That's not a lot, but a little astrophage goes a long way. There aren't any scientific instruments labeled, but what's the point of an unmanned ship with nothing on board? Wait, what if the 5 terabytes of storage is the point of the ship? She beat you! She's mega winning! A realization dawns on me. Oh, shucks, I say. I'm out in space. I'm in another star system. I don't know how much astrophage it took to get here, but it was probably a lot. Sending a ship to another star probably took an absurd amount of fuel. Sending that ship to another star and bringing it back would take 10 times as much fuel. I checked the astrophage panel to refresh my memory. 20,862 kilograms. Consumption rate 6.043 Gs. The consumption rate was 6,045 grams per second before, so it's gone down a little bit. Vaughn is in the hole. There is no escaping the hole. Uh, and the fuel amount went down too. Basically, as the fuel gets consumed, the total mass of the ship goes down, so it needs less fuel per second to maintain the constant acceleration. Okay, that all makes sense. I have no idea what the Hail Mary's mass is, but to be able to shove it along at 1.5 Gs of acceleration on a few grams of fuel per second, astrophage is amazing stuff. Anyway, I don't exactly know how long the consumption rate will be, or will change over time. I mean, I could work it out, but it's complicated. So for now, I'll just approximate it to 6 grams per second. How long will that fuel last? It's nice to have a jumpsuit on. It's got pockets for all sorts of knickknacks. I still haven't found a calculator, so I do the math with a pen and paper. Grand total, I'll run out of fuel in about 40 days. I don't know what star that is, but it's not the sun, and there's just no way to get from any other star to Earth with just 40 days of accelerating at 1.5 Gs. It probably took years to get here from Earth, which might be why I was in a coma. Interesting. Anyway, all this can only mean one thing. The Hail Mary isn't going home. This is a one-way ticket, and I'm pretty sure these beetles are how I'm supposed to send the information back to Earth. There's no way I have a radio transmitter powerful enough to broadcast several light years. I don't know if that would have even been possible to build. So instead, I have these little beetle ships with 5 terabytes of information each. They'll fly back to Earth and broadcast their data. There's 4 of them for redundancy. I'm probably supposed to put copies of my findings in each one and send them all home. If at least one survives the journey, Earth is saved. I'm on a suicide mission! Yay! John, Paul, George, and Ringo get to go home, but my long and winding road ends here. I must have known all this when I volunteered. But to my amnesia-riddled brain, this is new information. I'm gonna die out here, and I'm gonna die alone. That's the end of chapter 4. uh, Thoughts and feelings about chapter 4? Uh, we'll do a little yap sesh before we start chapter 5. How do you guys feel about chapter 4? I know it was absurdly long. Most of the chapters in this book are. I know. Oh, yeah. This book is rough. It's rough emotionally. Uh, It's thoughts, feelings, and prayers. Yeah. Yeah. This book has its fair share of cosmic horror to it. Um, yeah. I'd consider this book a cosmic horror comedy. Um, there's a lot of funny moments to it, but the majority of it really is um uh the horror of being alone in space and not being able to get out. It's actually pretty fascinating. And I feel like the movie takes out a lot of the science and also a lot of the spook. Yeah. Um I think space is a lot like the ocean. It's a vast expanse and we don't really know all of what's up there. So you can get a lot of good horror out of it. I think that's why a lot of people compare the movie to Iron Lung, which is a cosmic horror in an ocean. Uh, because again, like space and the ocean have a lot of similar spooky qualities to them inherently. I'm sure there's a space version of Thalassophobia. It might. That end is a long way away, though. There's a lot of ocean before you get to the bottom, and we don't know everything that's there. It's true that space goes on forever, but I think there's. I'm actually more scared of the ocean because I know there's a bottom, but I don't know what's down there. And I think it's the idea of what could be lurking beyond our eyes that fucks me up. I think I have mild thalassophobia. My least favorite Ultra Kill boss is Leviathan. Ugh. Hell, the Pokemon game that had the Titans, where one of them was in the water, that's fucked with me. Oh, Lily, you're a Genshin player. Remember the level early on with the giant water boss? That shit scared me so bad. I don't know if you remember that, uh, but I remember being super freaked out about it. I think it was Genshin. It was early Genshin. There's this like underwater creature that fucks me up so much. Actually, okay with Kyogre. Yes, I'm so I'm so glad you know what I'm talking about, Lily, because I know that yeah, like it was cool, but for my tiny like 19-year-old brain, that shit was freaky. Uh, I've always had a bit of a fear of big things underwater, and I'm sure that would carry over to the idea of big things in space. Yes, that fucking thing, the like Hydra thing. Oh, I hate it. It was cool. It was a cool monster design, but ooh, ooh. Huge shit in the sky scares me though too. Honestly, just the idea of massive monsters that we don't know about that could exist out there. True, real fear. Real fear. But, yeah. Okay. Um, y'all ready for chapter 5? Yeah, okay. Like it's less the fear of space and more like, oh, kinda. I have, um, I'm still waiting for my wonderful artist to finish the proper ref sheets, but I do have some drawings I can send you on Discord if you want for my two main outfits in each of my two forms. Debut is taking so long because my artist is one guy and he's working on multiple models. Uh Here, let me shoot you the art. Yeah, yeah. Um there's the two for, there we go. It's for my two favorite outfits, summer and spring. Um, I have a second model right now that I'm using. Yes, he is. He's doing his very best. I love Ollie. Oh, Genshin has finally downloaded. I guess in all that time that we were reading, it did its thing. This is really helping. Uh, I'm gonna get real with you guys for a sec. I was having a really tough day emotionally yesterday. Hold on, let me show you guys my other model real quick. Uh, like, this is my Fox model. It's in my winter outfit because it's a little older, but this is my other current one that I'm working on, or that I'm working with. Uh, Made by my wonderful artist, of course. But it's too hot out for that sweater, so um, but yeah, I was having a really rough day yesterday emotionally, and just getting to sit and hang out with you guys is really making it better. I think as long as I have y'all with me, uh, things are gonna work out. I think, um, sappy teamwork bullshit, but I think as long as we're things are gonna be okay. I feel a lot better now that I've had the chance to do this. I love streaming, and I think in the end, like I don't have to be friends with everyone to be happy. Yeah, yeah. All right, okay. Aw, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the hearts. Thank you. Um, yeah. Things are things are better when I remember that I don't need to be shooting for the moon. Uh, After all, I'm already a star. There's only so far I need to go. Um, so chapter 5. You guys are ready. I glared at the astrophage. Why the heck do you go to Venus? The microscope view was displayed on a big wall-mounted monitor. Each of the three little cells were a foot across, and at this magnification, I watched for any clues to their motivations. But Larry, Curly, and Mo offered no answer. Of course, I'd named them. It's a teacher thing. No, genuinely, I love how important his identity as a teacher is to him. Like, he brings it up several times. My best friend Bliss is a teacher, in their off time, so they really have ended up relating to him in a way that's pretty fun. I think when they eventually read the book, they're gonna have a really good time with him, to be honest. Um, uh, what's so special about Venus? How do you even find it? I cross my arms. If Astrophage understood body language, they'd know I wasn't messing around. It takes a room full of really smart people at NASA to work out how to get to Venus, and you do it as a single celled organism with no brain. It had been 2 days since Strat left me alone with the lab. The army guys were still at the doors. One was named Steve, friendly guy. The other never spoke to me. I ran my hands through my greasy hair I had neglected to shower this morning. At least I didn't have to wear the hazmat suit anymore. Scientists in Nairobi had taken a chance with one of their astrophage and exposed it to Earth atmosphere to see what happened. It was unaffected, so thanks to them, labs all over the world could breathe a sigh of relief and stop working in argon filled rooms. I glanced at the pile of papers on a desk. The scientific community had moved into overdrive in a very unscientific way. Gone were the days of careful peer review and published articles. Astrophage research was a free for all where the researchers posted their findings immediately and without proof. It led to misunderstandings and mistakes, but we just didn't have time to do things the right way. Strat kept me in the loop on most stuff, not everything. I was sure. Who knows what other weird things she was up to? She seemed to have authority everywhere. A Belgian research team was able to prove that astrophage reacts to magnetic fields, but only sometimes. Other times, it seems to ignore magnetic fields entirely, no matter how powerful. Still, the Belgians were able to, very inconsistently, steer astrophage around by putting it in a magnetic field and changing the field's orientation. Was that useful? No idea. But at this point, the world was just collecting data. Sippy. Don't forget to hydrate, chat. Please. A researcher in Paraguay showed that ants will get disoriented when they're within a few centimeters of astrophage. Was that useful? Okay, that one probably wasn't useful, but it was interesting. Most notably, a group in Perth sacrificed one of their astrophage and did a detailed analysis on the organelles inside. They found DNA and mitochondria. In any other situation, this would have been the most important discovery of the century. Alien life, indisputably alien, had DNA and mitochondria. And uh, a bunch of water. Point is, the inside of an astrophage wasn't much different from the inside of any single celled organism you'd find on Earth. It used ATP, RNA transcription, and a whole host of other extremely familiar things. Some researchers speculated that it originated on Earth. Others postulated this specific set of molecules was the only way for life to occur and astrophage evolved it independently. And a smaller vocal faction suggested life might not have evolved on Earth at all, and that astrophage and terrestrial life have a common ancestor. You know, I told the astrophage. Just chug the whole cup. God damn it, Bon. If you boys weren't threatening all life on my planet, you'd be pretty awesome. You have mysteries within mysteries. I leaned against a table. You have mitochondria. Okay. So that means you use ATP as your energy storage, just like we do. But the light you use to move around requires way more energy than your ATP can hold. So you have another energy storage pathway, one we don't understand. One of the astrophage on screen darted slightly to the left. It was pretty common. Once in a while, for no real reason, they'd just wiggle. What makes you move? Why move? And how does this random jerky motion get you from the sun to Venus? Why do you go to Venus at all? Lots of people were working on the internals of astrophage, trying to figure out what made it tick. Analyzing its DNA. Good for them. I wanted to know the basic life cycle. That was my goal. Single celled organisms don't just store buttloads of energy and fly through space for no reason. There had to be something astrophage needed from Venus, or it would just stay on the sun. And it needed something from the sun, too, or it would stay on Venus. The sun part was pretty easy. It was there for the energy. Same reason plants grow leaves. Gotta get that sweet, sweet energy if you're gonna be a life form. Makes perfect sense. So, what about Venus? Picked up a pen and fidgeted with it as I thought. According to Indian Space Research Organization, you guys get going up to 9.92 times the speed of light. I pointed at them. Didn't know we could do that, did you? Figure out your velocity. They use Doppler shift analysis of the light you emit to work it out. And because of that, they also know you're going both directions, to and from Venus. I frowned. But if you hit an atmosphere at that speed, you should die, so why don't you? They're at my forehead with my knuckle. Because you can't handle because you can handle any amount of heat. Right. So you blast into the atmosphere, but you don't get any hotter, okay? But you'd have to at least slow down, so you'd just be in the upper atmosphere of Venus. Then you what? Turn around and go back to the sun? Why? I stared at the screen for a solid 10 minutes, lost in thought. Alright, enough of this. I want to know how you find Venus. I went to the local hardware store and bought a bunch of 2x4s, 3/4 inch plywood, power tools, and other stuff I'd need. Steve, the army guy, helped me carry a lot of it in. Jerk army guy did. Jerk army guy did nothing. Okay. Over the next 6 hours, I built a light-proof closet with a shelf in it. It was just big enough for me to get in and out. I set the microscope on the shelf. The door was a plywood panel that I could remove with screws. I ran power and video lines into the closet through a little hole that I plugged up with putty to make sure no light could get in and through there either. I set my IR camera up on the microscope and sealed up the closet. Out in the lab, my monitor showed the infrared light on the light the camera saw. It was basically a frequency shift. Very low bands of IR would show up as red. Higher energy bands would be orange, yellow, and so on up the rainbow. I could see the astrophage cells as little red blobs, which was expected. At their constant temperature of 96.415 degrees Celsius, they would naturally emit an IR wavelength of 7.8 microns or so. Sippy. I want to say Carl, because he interacts with Rye more. We get to see more of that. But I feel like Carl is a fusion of Steve and another later character named Dimitri, who I like significantly more. I didn't care about the dark red color, I wanted to see a bright yellow flash. That would be the Petrova frequency that astrophages spit out to move around. If any astrophages moved even the tiniest amount, I'd see a very obvious yellow flash. But it never came. Nothing happened. Nothing at all. Usually I'd see a jerky motion from at least one of them every few seconds, but now there was nothing. So, I said, you little brats have settled down, huh? Can he talk to me like that? I mean, what? Light. Whatever their navigation system was, it was based on light. I suspected that would be the case. What else could you use in space? There's no sound, no smell. It would have to be light, gravity, or electromagnetism. And light's the easiest of those three to detect, at least as far as evolution is concerned. Steve is kept in the car, yes. Uh, for my next experiment, I taped a little light LED and a watch battery together. Of course, I wired it backward at first, and the LED didn't light up. That's pretty much a rule in electronics. You never get diodes right on the first try. Anyway, I rewired it correctly, and the LED lit up. I taped the whole contraption to the inside of the wall of the closet. I made sure to position it so the astrophage on the sample slide would have a direct line of sight on it. Then I sealed everything up again. Now, from the astrophage's point of view, there was a lot of black nothingness and one shining spot of white. It's kind of what Venus might look like if you were out in space looking directly away from the sun. They didn't budge. No hint of motion at all. Hmm, I said. To be fair, it wasn't likely to work if you were at the sun looking at if you were at the sun looking away from it for the brightest splotch of light you could see, it'd probably zero in on Mercury, not Venus. Mercury is smaller than Venus, but it's a lot closer, so you'd see more light. Why Venus? I mused, but then I thought of a better question. How do you guys identify Venus? Why did they move randomly? My theory, by pure chance every few seconds or so, an astrophage thought it had spotted Venus, so it thrust it in that direction. Then the moment passed, so it stopped thrusting. The key had to be frequencies of light. My boys didn't wiggle at all in darkness, but it wasn't just about the sheer volume of light, or they would have gone for the LED. It had to be something about the frequency of the light. Planets don't just reflect light, they also emit it. Everything emits light. The temperature of the object defines the wavelength of light emitted. Planets are no exception. So maybe Astrophage looked for Venus's IR signature. It wouldn't be as bright as Mercury's, but it would be a distinct, different color. A little Googling told me Venus's average temperature was 462 degrees Celsius. I had a whole drawer full of replacement bulbs for microscopes and other lab stuff. I grabbed one and hooked it up to a variable power supply. Incandescent bulbs work by getting the filament so hot it emits visible light. Oh, excuse me, I just burped. Tuscadoo. Tuscadoo. Okay. Um, that happens around 2,500 degrees Celsius. I didn't need anything so dramatic, I just needed a measly 462 degrees. I adjusted power going through the bulb up and down, watching with an IR camera until I got exactly the light frequency I wanted. I moved the whole contraption to my test closet, watched the monitor with my boys on it, and turned on the artificial Venus. Nothing. Absolutely no movement from the little jerks. What do you want from me? I demanded. I pulled my goggles off and threw them on the ground. I drummed my fingers on the table. If I were an astronomer and someone showed me a blob of light, how would I know if it's Venus? I answered myself. I'd look for the IR signature, but that's not what Astrophage does. Okay, someone shows me a blob of light and says I'm not allowed to use emitted IR to work out the temperature of the body. How else could I find out if it's Venus? Spectroscopy! Look for the carbon dioxide. I raised an eyebrow as the idea came to me. When light hits gas molecules, the electrons get all worked up. Then they calm down and re emit the energy as light. But the frequency of the photons they emit is very specific to the molecules involved. Astronomers use this for decades to know what gases are out there, far, far away. That's what spectroscopy is all about. Venus's atmosphere is 90 times Earth's pressure and almost entirely carbon dioxide. The spectroscopy signature of CO2 would be overwhelmingly strong. Mercury had no carbon dioxide at all, so the nearest competitor would be Earth, but we had a minuscule CO2 signature compared to Venus. Maybe Astrophage used emission spectra to find Venus? New plan! The lab had a seemingly infinite supply of light filters. Pick a frequency, and there's a filter for it. I looked up the spectral signature of carbon dioxide. The peak wavelengths were 4.26 microns and 18.31 microns. I found the appropriate filters and built a little box for them. Inside, I put a small white light bulb. Now I had a box that would emit the signature of carbon dioxide. I put it in the test closet and went out to watch the monitor. Larry, Curly, and Mo hung out on their side, just like that, just like they had all day long. I flicked on the light box and watched for any reaction. The astrophage left. They didn't just meander toward the light, they were gone, absolutely gone. Um, I'd been recording the camera input, of course. I ran back to watch my frame by frame. Between two frames, they simply disappeared. Oh. Um, Good news. Astrophage are attracted to carbon dioxide spectral signature. Bad news. My three irreplaceable 10 micron wide astrophage had launched off somewhere, maybe at velocities approaching the speed of light, and I had no idea where they went. Crap. Right, there's a break in the text, so I'm gonna take a little break. I'm gonna be right back. You two hang out and talk to each other while I'm gone, and I will be back in just a minute. Need more water anyway. I'm just checking in. I'll be right back, loves. I'm just gonna move laundry. Um, I haven't left you, I promise. Okay, I'm back. Thank you both for your patience. I return. Oh, texting me. Okay, I'm back. It's time for more book. This is how we're gonna do this. We're just gonna take pauses whenever there's a break in the text. Hold on. You're okay, Lily. I get it. You guys were worried. When you're multitasking, like a lot of people are when they have streams in the background. It can be scary when you when your VTuber goes missing. Okay. Um Also Ducklet is very peak Pokemon opinion. I like the Noivern line. They're pretty freaking cool. But I also like Shanks because I kind of look like one. My new design will anyway. Um, Midnight. Darkness everywhere. The army guys changed shift to two guys I didn't know. I missed Steve. I had an aluminum foil and duct tape up over every window of the lab. I sealed the cracks around the entrances and exits with electrical tape. I turned off every piece of equipment that had readout or LED or of any kind. I put up my watch in a drawer because it had glow in the dark paint on the hands. Meryl is cute. Oh, did you know that Azurill is one of the only Pokemon that can canonically transition its gender when it evolves? I think it's something like all Azurill are male, but when they evolve, they have a chance of turning into a female Meryl. It's pretty cool. I let my eyes adjust to the total darkness. If I saw so much as a single shape that wasn't my imagination, I sought out the light leak and put tape over it. Finally, I reached a level of darkness so intense I couldn't see anything. Opening or closing my eyes had no effect at all. The next step was my newly invented IR goggles. The lab had many things, but infrared goggles were not among them. I'd considered asking Steve, the army guy, if he could score some. I probably could have called Strat and she would have had the president of Peru personally deliver them or something. But this was faster. The goggles were just the LCD output screen of my IR camera with a bunch of tape around them. I pressed them to my face and added more tape. Oh, God. Ryland Redneck Engineering Grace is back in the building. Then more and more. I'm sure it looked ridiculous, but whatever. I fired up the camera and looked around the lab. Plenty of heat signatures. The walls were still warm from sunlight earlier that day. Everything electrical had a glow, and my body shined like a beacon. I adjusted the frequency range to look for much hotter things, specifically things over 90 degrees Celsius. I crawled into my makeshift microscope closet and looked at the light box I used for the CO2 spectral emission. Astrophage are only 10 microns across, no chance I'd see something so small with the camera, or with my eyes for that matter. But my little aliens are very hot, and they stay hot. So if they're not moving, they'll have spent the last 6 hours or so slowly heating up their surroundings. That was the hope. Panned out! I immediately saw a circle of light on one of the plastic light filters. Oh, thank God, I gasped. Very faint, but it was there. The spot was about 3 millimeters across and grew fainter and colder away from the center. The little fella had been heating up the plastic for hours. I scanned back and forth across the two plastic squares. I quickly found a second spot. My experiment worked way better than I expected. They saw what they thought was Venus and beelined for it. When they hit the light filters, they couldn't go any further. They probably kept pushing until I turned off the light. Anyway, if I could just confirm that all three astrophage were present, I could bag the filters, then spend however long I needed to find and harvest the boys from them with a microscope and a pipette. And there it was, the third astrophage. The gang's all here, I said. I reached into my pocket for a sample bag and got ready to very carefully pull the filter off the light box. That's when I saw the fourth astrophage. Just minding its own business. A fourth cell. It was right in the same general cluster as the first three on the filters. Holy. I'd been staring at these guys for a week. There's no way I would have missed one. There could only be one explanation. One of the astrophage divided. I'd actually made the astrophage reproduce. I stared at that fourth spot of light for a full minute, taking in the magnitude of what had just happened. Breeding astrophage meant we would have an unlimited supply for study. Kill them, poke them, take them apart, do whatever we wanted. This was a game changer. Hello, Shemp, I said. I spent the next 2 days obsessively studying this new behavior. I didn't even go home, I just slept in the lab. Steve, the army guy, brought me breakfast. Great guy. I should have shared all my findings with the rest of the science community, but I wanted to be sure. Peer review may have fallen by the wayside, but at least I could self review. Better than nothing. The first thing that bothered me, CO2 spectral emissions are 4.26 and 18.31 microns across, but astrophage are only 10 microns across, so it couldn't really interact with the light that had a larger wavelength. How could it even see in the 1831 micron band? I repeated my earlier spectral experiment with just the 1831 micron filter and got a result I didn't expect. Strange things happened. First off, two of the astrophage whipped over to the filter. They saw the light and went right for it. How? It should be impossible for astrophage to interact with a wavelength that big. I mean, literally impossible. Light is a funny thing. Its wavelength defines what it can and can't interact with. Anything smaller than the wavelength is functionally non existent to that photon. That's why there's a mesh over the window of a microwave. The holes in the mesh are too small for microwaves to pass through, but visible light with a much shorter wavelength can go through freely, so you get to watch your food cook without melting your face off. Hey, we just learned the science of microwaves. This book is awesome. Astrophage is smaller than 18.31 microns, but somehow still absorbs light at that frequency. How? But that's not even the strangest thing that happened. Yes, two of them took off for the filter, but the other two stayed put. They didn't seem to care, they just hung out on the slide. Maybe they didn't interact with the larger wavelength? So I did one more experiment. I shined the 4.26 micron light at them again. And I got the same results. The same two went right for the filter as before, and the other two just didn't care. Then there it was. I couldn't be 100% certain, but I was pretty sure I'd just discovered the whole astrophage life cycle. It clicked in my mind like puzzle pieces finally fitting together. Doc- Dr. Ryland Grace proving to be the best teacher of them all. The two holdouts didn't want to go to Venus anymore. They wanted to go back to the sun. Why? Because one of them had just divided and created the other. Astrophage hang out on the surface of the sun, gathering energy via heat. They store it internally in some way no one understands. Then, when they have enough, they migrate to Venus to breed, using that stored energy to fly through space using infrared light as a propellant. Lots of species migrate to breed. Why would astrophage be any different? The Aussies already worked out that the inside of the astrophage wasn't much different from Earth life and needed carbon and oxygen to make the components required for DNA. Mitochondria and all the other fun stuff found in cells. There's plenty of hydrogen on the sun, but the other elements just aren't present, so astrophage migrates to the nearest supply of carbon dioxide Venus. First, it follows magnetic field lines and goes straight away from the sun's north pole. It has to do that, or the light from the sun would be too blinding to find Venus. And going straight up from the pole means that astrophage will have a full view of Venus's entire orbital path, no portion of it occluded by the sun. Ah, and that's why astrophage is so inconsistent on reacting to magnetic fields. It only cares about them at the very beginning of its journey and at no other time. Then it looks for Venus's massive carbon dioxide spectral signature. Well, not really looks for, it's probably more a simple stimulus response being initiated by the 4.26 and 8.31 micron light bands. Or 18.31. God, these numbers keep fucking me up. Anyway, once it sees Venus, it goes straight to it. The path it takes, straight away from the solar pole, then sharply turning toward Venus. That's the Petrova line. Our heroic astrophage reaches the upper atmosphere of Venus, collects the CO2 it needs, and can finally reproduce. After that, both parent and child return to the sun, and the cycle begins anew. It's simple, really. Get energy, get resources, and make copies. It's the same thing all life on Earth does. And that's why my two little stooges didn't walk toward the light. So how does astrophage find the sun? My guess? It look for the extremely bright thing and head that way. I separated Mo and Shemp, the sun seekers, from Larry and Curly, the Venus seekers. Put Larry and Curly on a different slide and put it in a light sealed sample container. Then I set up an experiment in the dark closet for Mo and Shemp. This time I put a bright incandescent bulb in there and turned it on. I expected them to head right toward it, but no dice. They didn't budge. Probably not bright enough. I went to a photography store downtown. San Francisco has a lot of photography enthusiasts. And bought the largest, brightest, most powerful flash I could find. I replaced the light bulb with the flash and did the experiment again. Mo and Shemp took the bait. I had to sit down and take a breath. I should have taken a nap. I hadn't slept in 36 hours, but this was too exciting. I pulled out my cell phone and dialed Strat's number. She answered halfway through the first ring. Dr. Grace, she said. Find something? Yeah, I said. I figured out how astrophage reproduce and managed to make it happen. Silence for a second. You successfully bred astrophage? Yes. Non-destructively? She asked. I had 3 cells, now I have 4. They're all alive and well. Silence for another second. Stay there. She hung up. Huh? I said. I put the phone back in my lab coat. Guess she's on her way. Steve, the army guy, burst into the lab. Dr. Grace? What? Yeah. Please come with me. Okay, I said. Let me just get my astrophage samples put away. There are lab techs on their way to deal with that. You have to come with me now. Okay. The next 12 hours were unique. Actually, I'm gonna take a second to go to the bathroom and check on my laundry. Uh, but yeah, he figured out how to breed astrophage. Good job, buddy. I'll be back. I think I put too much milk in my soda this time. Just a little too much milk. It's become the consistency of like actual orange juice. I don't know if I like it. Hold on. you, you would think so, wouldn't you? Hello. Red ice cream back with me. How are you? Do. Time for more. I brought snacks. Who wants an ice cream bar? Or ice cream sandwich? Ryland doesn't get a reward, but we sure do. You know, Ryland's reward is being kidnapped and dragged to an aircraft carrier in the middle of the Chinese Ocean. Well, I mean, there's the only two of you, two or three of you here today, so I think you can each have one. If there are any more, we'd have to start splitting them in half. Mr. Plum. I guess I guess I'm the science teacher now. Maybe I'm an English teacher since we're doing a read along. Hmm. The next 12 hours were unique. Steve, the Army guy, drove me to a high school football field where a U.S. Marine Corps helicopter had already landed. Casually tosses you an ice cream sandwich. But in all reality, Lily, go eat if you need to eat. I'll still be here. Okay. The chopper took me to Travis Air Force Base, about 60 miles north of the city. Did the Marines often land at Air Force bases? I don't know much about the military, but that seemed odd. It also seemed a bit extreme to send the Marines in just to keep me from driving through a couple of hours of traffic, but okay. There was a Jeep waiting for me on the tarmac where the helicopter landed. There was an Air Force guy standing next to it. He introduced himself, I swear he did, but I don't remember his name. He drove me across the tarmac to a waiting jet. No, not a passenger jet. Not a Learjet or anything like that. This was a fighter jet. I don't know what kind. Like I said, I don't know military stuff. Oh, my dad texted me. My guide hustled me up a ladder and into the seat behind the pilot. He gave me a pill and a little paper cup of water. Take this, he said. What is it? It'll keep you from puking all over our nice clean cockpit. Okay. I swallowed the pill. And it'll help you sleep. What? Away he went, and the ground crew pulled away the ladder. The pilot didn't say a word to me. 10 minutes later, we took off like a bat out of hell. I'd never felt acceleration like that in my life. And if the pill did its job, I definitely would have puked. Where are we going? I asked through the headset. I'm sorry, sir, I'm not allowed to speak to you. This is gonna be a boring trip then. They usually are, he said. I don't know exactly when I fell asleep, but it was within minutes of taking off. 36 hours of mad science plus whatever was in that pill put me right into dreamland regardless of the ridiculous jet engine noise surrounding me. I awoke in darkness to a jolt. We landed. Welcome to Hawaii, sir, said the pilot. Hawaii? Why am I in Hawaii? I wasn't given that information. The jet taxied onto some side runway or whatever to a ground crew. Whatever, and a ground crew bought a ladder. I hadn't gotten halfway down the ladder yet when I heard, Dr. Grace, this way, please. It was a man in a U.S. Navy uniform. Where the hell am I? I demanded. Naval Station Pearl Harbor, said the officer, but not for long. Please follow me. Sure, why not? They put me in another jet with another non talkative pilot. The only difference was that this time it was a Navy jet instead of an Air Force jet. No. Oh, I love this chapter. It's so funny, and I feel so bad for Ryland the entire time. We flew for a long time. I lost track of the hours. Keeping track was meaningless anyway. I didn't know how long we'd been in the air. Finally, I kid you not, we landed on an honest to God aircraft carrier. The next thing I knew, I was on a flight deck looking like an idiot. They gave me earmuffs and a coat and shuffled me over to a helipad. A Navy chopper was waiting for me. Oh my god. Oh my god. It really is. Will this trip end, like, ever? I asked. They ignored me and got me strapped in. Chopper took off immediately. This time the flight wasn't nearly as long, just an hour or so. This should be interesting, said the pilot. It was the only thing he'd said the whole flight. We descended and the landing gear deployed. Below us was another aircraft carrier. I squinted at it. Something looked different. Was this? Oh, right, it had a big Chinese flag flying over it. Is that a Chinese aircraft carrier? I asked. Yes, sir. Are we, a US Navy helicopter, going to land on that Chinese aircraft carrier? Yes, sir. I see. We landed on the carrier's helipad and a bunch of Chinese Navy guys watched us with interest. There would be no post-flight servicing off this chopper. My pilot leered through the windows at them and they leered right back. As soon as I stepped out, he took off again. I was in China's hands now. A Navy man came forward and gestured for me to follow him. I don't think anyone spoke English, but I got the general idea. He led me to a door in the tower structure and we went inside. We wound through passageways, stairwells, and rooms I didn't even understand the purpose of. All the while, Chinese sailors watched me with curiosity. Finally, he stopped at a door with Chinese characters on it. He opened the door and pointed inside. I walked in and he slammed the door behind me. So much for my guide. I think it was an officer's conference room. At least that was my assumption based on the big table with 15 people sitting at it. They all turned their heads up to look at me. Some were white, some were black, some were Asian. Some wore lab coats, others wore suits. Strat, of course, sat at the head of the table. Dr. Grace, how was your trip? How was my trip? I got dragged across the gosh darn world without any notice. She held up her hand. It was just a pleasantry, Dr. Grace. I don't actually care how your trip was. This bitch sucks. Hold on. I'm finishing my ice cream. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Ryland Grace from the United States. He figured out how to breed astrophage. Gasps came from around the table. One man shot to his feet and spoke with a thick German accent. Are you serious? Strat, warum haben Sie... No English? Strat interrupted. Real. Ava Strat is completely insane. I love her so much. Why are we only hearing of this now? The German demanded. I wanted to confirm it first. While Dr. Grace was en route, I had technicians pack up his lab. They collected 4 live astrophage from his lab. I only left him 3. An elderly man in a coat spoke Japanese in a calm, soothing voice. Next to him, a younger Japanese man in a charcoal suit translated. Dr. Matsuka would like to respectfully request a detailed description of the process. Strat stepped aside and gestured to her chair. Doctor, have a seat and lay it out for us. Hold on, I said. Who are these people? Why am I on a Chinese aircraft carrier? And have you ever heard of Skype? This is an international body of high-level scientists and political operatives I have assembled to spearhead Project Hail Mary. What is that? That would take a while to explain. Everyone is eager to hear about your astrophage findings. Let's start with that. I shuffled to the front of the room and sat awkwardly at the head of the table. All eyes turned to me. So I told them. I told them all about the wooden closet experiments. I explained all my tests, what I did for each one, and how I did them. Jessica, I burped. Uh, then I explained my conclusions. I told them my hypothesis about the astrophage life cycle, how it works, and why. There were a few questions from the assembled scientists and politicos, but mostly they just listened and took notes. Several had translators whispering in their ear during the process. So, yeah, I said, that's pretty much everything. I mean, it's not rigorously tested yet, but it seems pretty simple. German guy raised his hand. Would it be possible to breed astrophage on a large scale? Give me a sec, I'm gonna check my laundry. Still don't have dry underwear, and I'm dressed because it's already 11. Still turning. Fuck. Okay, I might as well start getting dressed now. I'm planning to be out of this house by like 12:30-ish. Hold on. Probably later than that. My parents want me to start leaving later because they want to make sure my dog gets out at a decent time. I should do that with my window open. Yeah, Strat's a little nuts. It's like one of the main elements of her character. It's part of why I personally like her so much. Some of the some of the shit that comes out of this woman's mouth is hilarious. So yeah, I said that's pretty much everything. I mean, it's not rigorously tested yet, but it seems I already heard that. Everyone leaned forward a little. Apparently, this was a pretty important question and was on everyone's mind. I was taken aback by the sudden intensity in the room. Ava Stratz seemed unusually interested. Well, she said, please answer Mr. Voigt. Sure, I said. I mean, why not? How would you do it? I guess I'd make a big elbow shaped ceramic pipe and fill it with carbon dioxide. Make one end of it as hot as you can and get it. Make one end of it as hot as you can get it and have a bright light in there. Wrap a magnetic coil around it to simulate the magnetic field of the sun. Put an IR light emitter at the other end of the elbow and have it emit light at 4.26 and 18.31 microns. Make the inside of the pipe as black as you can. That should do it. How does that do it? She said. I shrugged. The astrophage will gather energy at the sun's side, and when they're ready to breed, they'll follow that magnetic field to the pipe's elbow. They'll see the IR light at the other end and head toward it. Seeing that light and being exposed to carbon dioxide makes them breed. Then the parent and daughter cells will go back to the sun side. Simple enough. A political looking man raised his hand and spoke with some kind of African accent. How much astrophage could be made this way? How fast is the process? They would have doubling time, I said. Like algae or bacteria. I don't know how long it is, but considering the sun's getting dim, it must be pretty quick. A woman in a lab coat had been on her phone. She set it down, then spoke with a thick Chinese accent. Our, scien- our scientists have reproduced your results. Minister Voigt scowled at her. How did you even know this process? He just told us. Spies, presumably, said Strat. German huffed. How dares you circumvent us with... Shush, said Strat. We're past all that. Miss C, do you have any information to share? Yes, she said. We estimate the doubling time to be just over 8 days under optimal conditions. What does that mean? The African diplomat said. How much can we make? Well, well, I launched my phone's calculator app and tapped a few buttons. If you started with 150 astrophage we have and bred them for a year, at the end of it, you'd have about 173,000 kilograms of astrophage. And would this astrophage be at maximum energy density? Would it all be ready to reproduce? So you want, I guess you'd call it enriched astrophage? Yes, he said. That's the perfect word for it. We want astrophage that is holding as much energy as it can. Talk time. I guess that could be arranged, I said. First, breed up the number of astrophage you want, then expose them to lots of heat energy, but don't let them see any carbon dioxide spectral lines. They'll collect energy and just sort of sit there waiting until they can go somewhere to get CO2. What if we needed 2 million kilograms of enriched astrophage? Said the diplomat. It's doubling every 8 days, I said. 2 million kilos would be another 4 doublings or so 1 month longer. Woman leaned forward on the table, her fingers steepled. We might just have a chance, she said in an American accent. An outside chance, said Voigt. There is hope, said the Japanese translator, presumably speaking for Dr. Matsuka. We need to talk amongst ourselves, said Strat. Go get some rest. The sailor outside will show you a bunk. But I want to know about Project Hail Mary. Oh, you will. Believe me. There's another line break right there, so I'm gonna continue getting dressed. Hold on. I hope you guys like the absurd amount of accents I've had to do for this chapter. Holy shit, I have to do a lot of different accents in chapter 6. It wasn't as hard when I was just doing Ava and her Dutch accent. Literally everyone in this chapter has a different fucking accent, and I've essentially had to do all of them. I like voice acting. This is a level of crazy that I'm not just trying to pull off. Okay, we have clothes. Yippee. Time to accessorize. Um, Thank you. Thank you. I do my best. I like doing Strat's voice a lot. She's fun. It's pretty heavily inspired by the way that it's done in the actual book, or the actual audiobook, and a little bit of Sandra Hiller's movie performance. But for some fucking reason, the movie made Strat German instead of Dutch. So I tend to lean more into the attempted Dutch accent that Porter does. Because I have a voice that can go higher and sound more naturally feminine, it leans a little bit better into my Strat voice, I think. I really like doing Strat. She's a fun character to play around with. So 11:28. I think we'll finish chapter 6 and then I'll shut it down and uh start getting ready. We'll probably just yap for a bit or something. There we go. There we go. Okay. I'm dressed. Yippee. For now. I'll do it later, but I'm mostly dressed for the moment. Oh, just fill my water bottle in a little bit. Getting ready for work has like 30 fucking steps to it. Uh, okay. Book. Book. Let's go. I'll take a picture of my outfit and tweet it like I always do. I know you guys like that. You like the outfits. Oh, try not to respond to any of my tweets for a while. I think it'll keep people. Oh, hold on, we have mail. 1 minute. Back. Sorry about that. Yes, the boy is clothed. My cat. They ordered my cat a new food mat. And I was just going to pick it up. I've acquired it. What I was saying before is, hey, try not to respond to my tweets for a bit, just until my stalkers fuck off. Uh, they usually get bored eventually. So I figure if no one talks to me for a bit, maybe they'll just get bored. I don't know, respond if you're brave, but I want to keep myself and everyone I love somewhat safe. I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to want. Because you are very brave. Fuck, all of our friends are at fucking off Kai. I'm not an off Kai. Sucks so much. I wish I were an off guy too. Wee. Okay, read time book. Uh, I slept for 14 hours. Aircraft carriers are awesome in many ways, but they aren't five-star hotels. The Chinese had given me a clean, comfy cot in an office's bunk room. I have no complaints. I could have slept on the flight deck. I was so tired, but I felt something weird on my forehead when I woke up. I reached up. It was a post-it note. Someone put a post-it note on my head while I slept. I pulled it off and read it. Clean clothes and toiletries in a duffel under your bunk. Show this note to any sailor when you've cleaned up. And then something in Chinese. The note was signed Strat. She is such a pain in my butt, I mumbled. Stumbled out of my cot. A few officers gave me passing glances, but otherwise ignored me. I found the duffel, and as promised, there were clothes and dental hygiene stuff and soap. I glanced around the bunk room and saw through the doorway into a locker room. Used the bathroom, or had, I guess, because I was on a ship. Then I took a shower with three other guys. I dried off and put on the jumpsuit onesie Strat had left me. It was bright yellow, had Chinese writing along the back, and a big red stripe down the left leg of the pants. My guess was to make sure everyone knew I was a foreign civilian and not allowed in certain places. I flagged down a passing sailor and showed him the note. He nodded and gestured for me to follow. He led me through a maze of twisty little passages all alike until we arrived back at the room I'd been in the previous day. I stepped in to see Strat and some of her teammates, a subset of the previous day's gang. Just Minister Voigt, the Chinese scientist, I think her name was Z, and a guy in a Russian military uniform. Oh my god, Dimitri! We're gonna get to meet Dimitri today! I'm so excited! You guys are gonna get to meet my favorite character in the whole book. I'm so excited. The Russian had been there the previous day, but hadn't said anything. They all looked deep in concentration, and the table was littered with paper. They mumbled to one another here and there. I didn't know the exact relationships going on, but Strat was definitely at the head of the table. She looked up as I entered. Ah, Dr. Grace, you look refreshed. She gestured to her left. There's food on the credenza. And there was. Rice, steamed buns, deep fried dough sticks, and an urn of coffee. I rushed over and helped myself. I was hungry as heck. I sat at the conference table with a full plate and a cup of coffee. So, I said with a mouthful of rice, you gonna tell me why we're on a Chinese aircraft carrier? I needed an aircraft carrier. The Chinese gave me one. Well, they lent it to me. I slurped my coffee. There was a time when something like that would surprise me, but not anymore. Commercial air travel takes too long and is prone to delays, she said. Military aircraft work on whatever schedule they want and travel supersonically. I need to be able to get experts from anywhere on Earth in the same room with no delays. Miss Strat can be extremely persuasive, said Minister Voigt. I shoveled more food into my mouth. Blame whoever gave her all the authority, I said. Voigt chuckled. I was part of that decision, actually. I'm Germany's Minister of Foreign Affairs. It's the equivalent of your country's Secretary of State. Paused my chewing. Wow, I managed to say. I gulped down the mouthful. You're the most high-ranking person I've ever met. No, I'm not. He pointed to Strat. She put a piece of paper in front of me. This is what led to the Hail Mary project. You're showing him? Voight said. Now? Without getting him a clearance? Strat put her hand on my shoulder. Dr. Ryland Grace, I hereby grant you top secret clearance to all information regarding Project Hail Mary. That's not what I meant, Voight said. There are processes and background checks to. No time, said Strat. No time for any of that stuff. That's why you put me in charge. Speed. She turned toward me and tapped the paper. These are readings from amateur astronomers all over the world. They show something very important. paged columns of numbers. I noticed the column titles Alpha Centauri, Sirius, Leuton, and 726-8, and so on. Stars? I said. Those are all the stars in our local cluster. And wait, did you say amateur astronomers? You can tell the German Minister of Foreign Affairs what to do. Why don't you have professional astronomers working for you? I do, said Strat. This is historical data collected over the past several years. Professional astronomers don't study local stars, they look at faraway things. It's amateurs who log data on local stuff, like train spotters, hobbyists in their backyards, some of them with tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment. I picked up the paper. Okay, so what am I looking at? Luminosity readings, normalized across thousands of amateur-generated datasets and corrected for known weather and visibility conditions. Supercomputers were involved. The point is this. Hold on, I'm opening my window so you can see my book better. Had it close to change. I'm waiting by a door with a baseball bat, hoping somebody tries. God, you're so cool. Um, I think there's only one somebody at the moment. Hopefully, I've taken care of her, but we'll see. My own personal strat. Oh, super. Uh, our sun is not the only star that's getting dimmer. Really? I said. Oh, that makes perfect sense. Astrophage can travel at 0.92 times the speed of light. If it can go dormant and stay alive long enough, it could infect nearby stars. It's spores, just like mold. It spreads from star to star. That's our theory, yes, said Strat. The data goes back decades. It's not deeply reliable, but the trends are there. The NSA back calculated that. Wait, NSA? The US National Security Agency? They have some of the best supercomputers in the world. I needed their supercomputers and engineers to try all kinds of scenarios and propagation models for how astrophage could get around in the galaxy. Back to the point, the local stars have been dimming for decades, and the rate of the dimming increases exponentially, just like we're seeing with the sun. She handed me another piece of paper. It had a bunch of dots connected by nearby lines. Above the dot was a star name. Owing to the speed of light, our observations of the dimming had to be adjusted for the distances of the stars and whatnot. But there's a clear pattern of infection from star to star. We know when each star was infected, and by which infected star. Our sun was infected by a star called VISE 08550714. That star was infected by Sirius, which was infected by Epsilon Eridani. From there, the trail goes cold. Appeared at the chart. Why is 08550714 also infected Wolf 359, Lalonde 21185, and Ross 128? Yes, every star eventually infects all of its neighbors. Judging from our data, we think the astrophage has a maximum range of just under 8 light years. Any star within that range of an infected star will eventually be infected. Look, man, he's a fucking junior high school science teacher. He's never seen half this shit before. Also, Strat's crazy, and he hasn't figured that out yet. Um, uh, I looked at the data. Why 8 light years? Why not more or less? Our best guess is that the astrophage can only survive so long without a star, and it can cost about 8 light years in that time. That's sensible from an evolution point of view, I said. Most stars have another star within 8 light years, so that's about as far as astrophage probably had to evolve while sporing. Probably, said Strat. Nobody noticed those stars getting dimmer? I said. They only get about 10% dimmer before they stop dimming. We don't know why. It's not obvious to the naked eye, but if our sum dims by 10%, we're all dead, I said. Pretty much. She leaned forward on the table. Her posture was extremely proper. Miss Strat has not told you the most important part yet. The Russian nodded. It was the first time I'd seen him move at all. Z continued. Do you know what Tau Ceti is? Do I know? I said. I mean, I know it's a star. It's about 12 light years away, I think. 11.9, said C. Very good. Most people would not know that. I teach junior high school science, I said. These things come up. They shot the Russian. Z and the Russian shot each other surprised looks. Then they both looked at Strat. Strat stared them down. There's more to him than that? Z regained her composure, not that she'd lost much of it anyway. In any event, Tau Ceti is very much inside the cluster of infected stars. In fact, it is near the center. Okay, I said. I'm sensing there's something special about it? It's not infected, she said. Every star around it is. There are two very infected stars well within 8 light years of Tau Ceti, yet it remains unaffected. Why? Strat shuffled through her papers. That's what we want to find out. So we're going to make a ship and send it there. Why? Tell him. We don't know! It's my favorite movie joke. I wish it was in the book. Also, there's no bleep weep. Sorry, I love the bleep weep, but there is no bleep weep in the book. That's a movie edition. You can't just make an interstellar ship. We don't have the technology. We don't have anything close to the technology. The Russian spoke for the first time. Actually, my friend, we do. Strat gestured to the Russian. Dr. Komarov is. Please, call me Dmitri, he said. Dmitri heads up the Russian Federation's research into astrophage, she said. It's a pleasure to meet you, he said. I am happy to report that we can actually make interstellar voyage. No, we can't, I said, unless you've got an alien spaceship you never told anyone about. In a way, we do, he said. We have many alien spaceships. We call them astrophage. You see, my group has studied the energy management of astrophage. It is very interesting. I suddenly forgot everything else going on in the room. Oh god, please tell me you understand where the heat goes. I can't figure out what the heck it's doing with the heat energy. We have figured this out, yes, said Dmitri. With lasers. It was very illuminating experiment. Was that pun? It was. Good one! We both laughed. Strat glared at us. Yes. We pointed tight focus 1 kilowatt laser at a single astrophage cell. As usual, it did not get hotter, but after 25 minutes, light starts to bounce off. Our little astrophage was full. Good meal. It consumed 1.5 megajoules of light energy. Does not want more, but this is very much energy. Where does it put all this energy? I'm leaning way too far over the table, but I can't help myself. Where? We measure astrophage cell before and after experiment, of course. Of course. Astrophage cell is now 17 nanograms heavier. You can see where this goes, yes? No, it can't be. It must have gained that weight from reactions to the air or something. No, it was in vacuum for the test, of course. Oh my god. I was giddy. 17 nanograms times 9 times 10 to the 16th, 1.5 megajoules. I flopped back into my chair. Holy, I'm just, wow. This was how I felt, yes. Mass conversion. As the great Albert Einstein once said, E equals mc squared. There's an absurd amount of energy in mass. A modern nuclear plant can power an entire city for a year with the energy stored in just 1 kilogram of uranium. Yes, that's it. The entire output of a nuclear reactor comes from a single kilogram of mass. Astrophage can, apparently, do this in either direction. It takes heat energy and somehow turns it into mass. Then, when it wants the energy back, it turns the mass back into energy in the form of Petrova frequency light, and it uses that to propel itself along in space. So, not only is it a perfect energy storage medium, it's a perfect spaceship engine. Evolution can be insanely effective when you leave it alone for a few billion years. I rub my head. This is just crazy. In a good way, though. Is it internally producing antimatter, do you think? Something like that? We do not know, but it definitely increases in mass. And then, after using light as thrust, with loses miss appropriate to energy released. That's Dimitri, I want to hang out with you. Like, can we hang out? I'll buy you a beer or vodka or anything. I bet there's an officers club on this boat, right? It would be my pleasure. Glad you're making friends, said Strat. But you've got a lot of work to do before you start hitting the bars. Me? What do I have to do? You need to design and create an astrophage breeding facility. I blinked, then I shot to my feet. You're gonna make an astrophage powered ship! They all nodded. Holy cow, that's the most efficient rocket fuel ever! How much do we. Oh, 2 million kilograms, right? That's why you wanted to know how long it would take to make that much! Yes, said she. For 100,000 kilogram ship, we would need 2 million kilogram of astrophage to get it to Tau Ceti. And thanks to you, we know how to activate the astrophage and make it generate thrust at will. I sat back down, pulled out my phone, and launched a calculator app. This would take a lot of energy, like more energy than the world has. It would be around 10 to 23rd joules. The largest nuclear reactor on Earth makes about 8 gigawatts. It would take that reactor 2 million years to create that much energy. We have ideas for finding the energy, said Strat. Your job is to make the breeder. Start small, get a prototype going. Okay, sure, I said. But I didn't exactly love the Militaries of the World Grand Tour on the way here. Can I take a passenger jet home? Coach is fine. You are home, said Strat. The flight hangar is empty. Just tell me what you need, including staff, and I'll make it happen. I looked at the others in the conference room. G, Voight, and Dimitri all nodded. Yes, this was real. No, Strat wasn't kidding. Why? I demanded. Why the heck can't you just be normal, Strat? If you want fast military transport, well, okay, but why not just work at an airbase or something like sane people do? Because we will be experimenting with a bunch of astrophage once we breed it up. And if we accidentally activate even a couple of kilograms of the stuff, the resulting explosion will be bigger than the largest nuclear bomb ever made. Sarbomba, said Dimitri. Made by my country. 50 megatons. Boom. Strat continued. So we'd rather be out in the middle of the ocean where we won't eradicate any cities. Oh, I said. And as we get more and more astrophage, we will go further and further out to sea. Anyway, head down to the hangar deck. I have carpenters building accommodations and offices as we speak. Pick some you like and lay claim. This is our life now, said Dimitri. Welcome. And that's the end of chapter 5. How do we feel? I love that chapter. It's my favorite chapter to read out loud because he's so happy. And I get to just, oh, I love Dimitri. What do you guys think of Dimitri? Do you guys like Dimitri? I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Just talk about the chapter. I'm so happy. Oh, I love being a VTuber. Alright, I'm back in the chair. I'm glad you like Dimitri as much as I do. I think he's a delight. He's so funny. He's just like a good guy, you know? I think it's pretty clear, uh, I hope it's clear now what I mean when I say that I feel like a lot of Carl was taken from Dimitri, especially in his relationship with Ryland, which does stay very strong the entire book. Carl is definitely a solid combination of Dimitri and Steve, from what I can tell. I have the softest spot for that Russian scientist. He's a delight. Oh, I leave these VODs up, by the way, so anyone who doesn't catch the entire stream is completely able to go listen to the previous few chapters VOD and catch themselves up at any time. I archive all my streams, including my karaoke's, even if the music in them might get me copy struck, because I want uh, potential sponsorships and other such things to have examples of my work on hand so that they can see the kind of work that I do on my channel. I also want potential fans and collab partners to know what they're getting into when they show up. And I think keeping my VODs up and doing my best to maintain them, uh, however possible, is the most effective way of doing stuff like that. Mm, yeah, you take the army guy and the astrophysicist, and like you take Steve's job and Dimitri's personality, and you sort of for real. I've been dealing with a lot in my past few years, 3 or 4-ish years of VTubing, and for every door that closes, I want to leave another open. So I try to do things like keep my content up and keep my doors open for possible collaborations and friendships. Because I know a lot of that can make or break a career. Um, Hell, if I become the Project Hail Mary VTuber, I will sleep well every night. And like, I don't even care if I never get like a huge following and if big VTubers never see me. TBH, I just want to have a small, loyal fan base. And if that small, loyal fan base is willing to give me money, awesome. There's also plans through my agency to be able to sell merch and shit. So if you guys ever want to buy me in any conceivable way, once debut happens, my manager, Oliver, is making connections for us. And we're hoping that he'll be able to get me some merch deals and shit in the future. My ultimate goal is to be able to go to a convention like Offkai in person. I'd like to be able to put together something resembling a cosplay, or at the very least just show up wearing recognizable clothes and be seen and hang out with people at conventions. I don't see myself ever getting the chance to wheel around, though that'd also be very cool. Someone put my ass on a screen, I'd have a fantastic time. I want to go to cons. I want to do concerts. I want live 2D and 3D models. I want merchandise. I don't really care who I have to have around me when that happens, just as long as there's enough people to keep me afloat. It's gonna sound real cutthroat of me, but TBH, you gotta kick a few rungs off a ladder to get to the top. Things don't work out with certain people, I can't let that keep me from aiming higher anyway. have to continue the climb even if I know I'm never getting down again. And I'm real with you guys because you're some of the only friends I have. I want to be able to be real with you about my feelings, my thoughts, my situation. See no reason to lie to the people who are literally keeping my career afloat. Honestly, though, just reading books to you people is the best. Just sitting here and yapping about my interests, forcing you guys to absorb my interests. It's a blast. It's 12:01, so I think we're just gonna yap for the rest of the stream and we'll pick up chapter 6 tomorrow. I actually have the exact same shift tomorrow, so I can probably do this again tomorrow morning. Unless one of my friends decides they want to hang out. But there's a good chance that we'll be back here tomorrow reading more book. So we'll try to be back here for more Project Hail Mary tomorrow morning at around the same time. So like 9ish until around noonish. I think I can manage that. Thank you for listening to me read. Like I said last time, this is fun. I get a lot out of this. It's great to be able to do something and take part in something that means a lot to me with people who I care a lot about. Um, at the end of the day, like, the fun part of streaming is hanging out with you guys. It's getting to be myself in a community of people who think I'm cool. As selfish as that is, I think all creators have to be a little narcissistic to make it work, so forgive me, but no, I'm really happy. This makes me happy, and thank you. I appreciate it. I love this book more than anything. I'm probably gonna listen to more of the audiobook on my way to work. This is my second time listening to it, and I intend to listen to it over and over until my Project Hail Mary hyperfixation dies down, probably. Genuinely. Fuck. Remind me to pick a day next week to get my hair cut. I've been managing to do basically all my other important chores, but I keep neglecting getting my hair cut. I want it to go back to being as short as my model. Last time we did a stream, uh, about Project Hail Mary, I told everyone that I don't like the fandom shipping, and I especially don't like Bloody Mary, and that is still true. Like, I have no problem with crack ships on principle, but I just hate the way the fandom infantilizes Ryland. They make him such an Ulu boy, and, like, I'll say this till I'm blue in the face. Shit pisses me off. I wouldn't be surprised if people block me for not liking the ship to VH. Shippers are very, very aggressive about that sort of thing. Um, but I stand by my take. I don't like the way the fans. I also don't like fans that call Ryland a coward because the entire point of the book and the movie is that he's not a coward. Not at all. He's very brave. He's doing all these brave things, but he's scared shitless while doing it. But hey, you got your number one badge back. Congratulations. Congratulations on your number one chatter badge, Vaughn. Again. This is what Lily gets for going to eat. Uh, yeah, like it takes a lot of the things that make Ryland fun out of him. I also don't like what an angry brute they've turned Simon into. I think that's unfair. Um, but Ryland to me, like, yes, he's terrified the entire time. But yes, you did. That's the thing, though, is that like he's brave. Ooh, Uma Musume figure just came out. It's Rice Showers, my favorite. But anyway, um, oh, my follower count's stable again, by the way. Which I'm taking as a good sign. Maybe I'll unlock my Twitter in a little bit. Yeah, like Simon is the man who cries over a live plant. Trying to take that from him just because he's uniquely angry about his situation is bullshit. Just like trying to take a lot of Ryland's funnier, sassier moments away from him just because he cries a lot is bullshit. Like, yeah, Ryland is terrified the entire time, but he does it anyway. Like, you know the phrase do it scared? Like I said this last time, and I'm probably gonna repeat it until I'm blue in the face, but like Ryland is brave because he does the scary shit anyway. That's what makes him brave. It's the fact that he does all of the shit that he needs to do, despite how terrified he is. And his scientific curiosity is a big part of what helps him push through that. And I don't know, I just really like that about him. And I feel like a lot of Bloody Mary shippers strip that away in a way that is very depressing to me personally. But, shrug emoji. Perhaps it's just me being protective of my Blorbo. Who's to say, really? I know that I'm very naturally affectionate towards and protective of him for a multitude of reasons. And I completely understand people who are willing to, like, I don't know, I get it. People can say that I'm just being an overprotective self shipper if they want, but I genuinely believe that a lot of these shippers are mischaracterizing Ryland. in in a way, it feels like they're trying to fit him and Simon into. I don't know exactly. Lily just sent me a Pomu Rain Puff sticker. Discord. Oh my god, I love Pomu. No, because you could ask me who my Niji Sanji Oshi is, and I'd tell you that none of them are at the company anymore. um, it was Ike for so long. But Um, yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen Iron Lung yet. I probably won't. I'm not big on horror. I didn't even really want to get into Project Hail Mary back when I thought that it was gonna be scarier than it is. There's a pimple on my chin. It's pissing me off. Um, and it. What? What? Just fucking mad that she lost her badge. That's what you get for lurking. Yay! Yay, you did it! YouTube having chat badges is such a fun system. It kind of reminds me of the whole Irium Star Badge thing, but in like a more relaxed form, I think. I don't think I could work Irium. I don't think I have the time. I think my job and my shit energy level would make it difficult for me to stream regularly there. As much as I know all my Irium friends want me there, like, I don't think I could do it. Yay! There you go. It just pops in to get her chat badge back. I love to see it. I forgot to send my the link to this stream to my agency chat, so literally no one in my agency is here. That's okay. That's fine. Suck it. The queen must reign. Such are the rules. Alright, are you going somewhere or you just really want your bat? Are you guys gonna start fighting over the chat badges? What have I started? I'm a real VTuber when my chat have a rapport with each other. This is great. Honestly, these book club streams are the most fun that I have at streams, aside from my karaoke's. I'm really enjoying the the dynamic. That like I just it's a fun atmosphere for me. I'm really oh no. I'm really enjoying um just the the ability to like have you guys here and have my eyes on the chat while still doing something. Um and getting to engage with something I like. I want to do more collabs. I had a lot of fun. I did a Rivals collab with Bliss a little bit ago. It got hijacked by you know who, so we had to cut it short. But it was a good time, all things considered, and I really liked doing it. I want to play more Rivals with her. I just hope it didn't scare her out of streaming too much. I want to do more collabs in general. Like, I want to play Rivals or Genshin with people. I want to find a new Rivals collab partner other than Bliss, though, because the person I was planning to do it with was part of the Blockapalooza yesterday, unfortunately. So I'm gonna have to figure that out. Um, but I want to do more collabs. I want to hang out with people on stream. It's fun to have you guys in chat, but it's also fun to have people that I can play with and just, I don't know. Um, Games are more fun when there's somebody there. But things like this, where I can have my eyes on the chat the whole time, are fun in their own way because I can see what you guys say and I don't miss anything. Right, it's 12:14. Um, I think I'm going to close out and start getting ready for work. I've had a great time. We to wrap up to remind ourselves today, we got through chapters 4 and 5. Yeah, absolutely, especially like multiplayer games. But we got through chapters 4 and 5 today of Project Hail Mary. Again, for anyone wanting to read the book in their own time, that's Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Um, Tomorrow morning at around 9ish, same time, hopefully, we are going to start chapter 6. And that's great because we are almost at Rocky. Um, Chapter 5 is the last chapter where Ryland spends the majority of his time alone. Hi, Have a good day. I'll text you later. Um, but it's the last chapter where Rye spends most of his time alone on the ship. Late chapter 6 is when he discovers the blip A, and then the rest of the book is his slow interaction with Rocky. So if you guys are excited for Rocky, he's on the way. Can you hear my ice clinking in my glass ASMR? Is that good? Too much power with this microphone. Okay, yeah, so chapter 6 and hopefully 7 tomorrow. And I will try to stream more often. It's gonna be a lot. Yeah, oh God, I know. Rocky's the best. I can't wait to do my Rocky voice for you guys. I have to practice it. I have an idea in my head of yeah, it's pretty fresh. There's some big ice cubes. I have an idea in my head for what I want to do with my Rocky voice, but I have to practice a little bit. But a lot of fun alien science stuff. And if you liked Ryland geeking out over the astrophage today, you're gonna have a lot of fun listening to him geek out over finding more aliens. I think he's so cute when he's happy. I really enjoy reading for like a static, happy Ryland, to BH. Like he's fun. My bangs are doing incredible sweepy shit today. My hair looks great. Oh fuck, I just knocked my whole microphone. I'm so sorry. Okay, okay. That's it. We're ending now, I promise. Bye guys. I love you. See you next time. Oh,